How's it going, everybody? RazingHel here, and today I'd like to recount my terrible support story from Capital One. So for those who aren't aware what Capital One is in the United States, they provide financial services like checking, consumer banking, and things like loans, mortgages, savings accounts, checkings accounts, and most importantly, credit cards. So my history with Capital One dates back a little bit. I previously have had two accounts with them per se. One was a secured credit card, and then the other one was a savings account, I think. And this was a few years ago, and I probably closed both of these accounts about 2 years ago at this point. So recently, and this is how the entire story begins, I decided to get a new account with them. This was for a credit card. So I went ahead and I applied, got approved and all of that, get the card, and then I tried to set up the account. Now the thing is, I had those two former accounts and I closed those former accounts, but when I tried to create a new account, they would not let me create a completely new account. They tried to sign me in using that old account. And so this is a problem that you run into nowadays quite frequently, where even if you delete an account or do your best to close an account, a company is still keeping that account on record. So what was the problem here? I tried to log in to that old account. I had the login information for it yet because, I could have deleted it. It would make sense if I had deleted it because I thought I had closed the account. They wouldn't let me log in. There was no password that worked with this account. I had the information saved. I couldn't log in at all. So what do? I click the reset password, and the reset password button doesn't work either, because when I try to reset the password, all it does is give me an error message and give me a phone number to call. So I call the phone number, and the support asks me a ton of information about my accounts, whatnot, blah, blah, blah. It probably takes 15 minutes to get to the point where I can finally explain what the problem is, and then, well, maybe not 15 minutes, but it takes a little bit of time. So I finally explain what the problem is, whatever, and they say they'll send me a reset password to my current phone. So I didn't make it very explicitly clear which was my current phone, but they had actually asked me the phone number of my current phone, so I assumed they knew. So I hung up on that call when they said they sent it out, and then they send the reset password to the wrong phone number. So when I had originally created these two Capital One accounts that I later closed, I had a different phone number at that time. And Capital One, when I just talked to them in this phone call, they sent the reset password to that old phone number, even after they had just verified with me what my current phone number was. So now I have to call them back up again. So I call them back up again. This time I mentioned that I was on the phone with a support tech just a few moments ago, and that support person sent the reset password to the old phone number, the incorrect phone number. And at first I thought this was going to get me through faster because they seemed to be aware of the previous case that had been opened. But then I ended up waiting on the line for about 30 minutes as they continually tried to escalate the support for this account that I'm trying to set up here. So I wait on the line and wait on the line. Like I said, it's about 30 minutes. They check in with you about every 3 minutes and tell you that somebody's going to be with you shortly. Who knows how long it actually is, but for me it was about 30 minutes. So I finally get through after 30 minutes, and this time they send that reset password to the correct phone number, which is great. So I take that password and I type it in, and it lets me log into the account at long last. And I'm thinking, great, this is finally some progress. I like to see progress, even if it takes longer than it normally would or should. As long as at the end of the day the problem is solved, I generally consider that a win, and I can the majority of my frustrations kind of evaporate at that point. However, there are additional problems. So after getting that reset password, they ask you to choose a new password, and they have certain conditions for it. Now, I use a password manager, and in the password manager, there's the option to set character length, the different types of characters you want to use, alphanumerical, symbols, stuff like that. So I had it set up for all the different stuff, right? You got some capitals, some capital letters, some lowercase letters, some numbers, some symbols. Only Capital One is really particular about which symbols you can use. You can basically use anything that's on the numbers on your keyboard. So like the @ symbol, $, hashtag, £, whatever you want to call it, stuff like that. But you can't use other symbols like a period, comma, a question mark. Maybe you could use a question mark, but you couldn't use something like a / or \. You couldn't use those symbols. So I had to go back through the password manager, pick out the symbols that it generated that were not compatible with good old Capital One's verification password, double check system, whatever you want to call it, you know, where they check your password to make sure it's supposed to be secure. That wastes more time. And after choosing that password, I click to apply it and we get another error. Exact same error that I got when I was trying to reset the password at the very beginning of this entire debacle. Okay. So you're not making any progress, it would appear. And I tell the tech support that, and their solution to it is along the lines of somebody some tech support who recommends you restart your computer, right? Clear out the browser cache and the cookies, restart your browser. Fine, I can do all of that. I'm using Chrome. It's not like it's a terribly unsupported, unrecognized, unknown browser. I do all of that. I come back, apply, get the new temporary password, set my new official password with the very stringent special character restrictions on it, and I have the exact same problem once again. At this point, they tell me they cannot help me and that it's going to take another 2 business days and they will contact me via email about additional information for setting up this account. So this is my story of my experience with Capital One as a returning consumer, as a returning customer, because like I said before, I have had accounts with Capital One. I tried to shut those accounts down. I thought I had successfully shut those accounts down, but when it came time to open another account with them, they wanted to use that old account. And if there is a moral to be taken away from this or something, it's that we need more stringent regulations on how much of our data these companies are keeping after we tell them to close the account and get rid of our information, right? Because this would not have happened if Capital One actually deleted my information. They should have deleted my information because there's no reason for them really to keep it except for their own selfish purposes. I do not benefit from a company that I'm not doing business with any longer from keeping my information. There's no benefit really to me from that. And they didn't have to keep all the information. Like they could have my mailing address or something, whatever, that kind of stuff for marketing, maybe know my credit score, who cares? But they actually kept the account name and apparently the account password and all the information that was associated with that. And because they kept all of that stuff, when I became a returning consumer, I wanted to sign up for another account, they wanted to pigeonhole me back into that old account that it's just totally broken. Maybe they changed the system since then due to a migration, whatever is going on with it. It's just the worst type of problem to have. It's a terrible introduction or reintroduction to a bank's services, and it has really soured my opinion on Capital One since returning. This is a very unfortunate situation. I still have not found a solution to it yet. It's been about 15 hours since I last contacted them. They said they would be contacting me again within 2 business days via email, and we could try to work it out from there. But there's no telling how long this problem is going to go on and how long it's going to take me to finally get access to my account, because these large banks who are dealing with very sensitive private financial information are sometimes just utterly incompetent when it comes to handling that information. And that's a sad reality, and it really does disappoint me. I guess that's the best way I can put it. Keep in mind, by the way, that the entire time I spent about an hour and 30 to 40 minutes speaking with these people on the phone, calling them, typing in stuff like that, whatever. I was cordial to them, right? Don't get me wrong. I'm not somebody who just flies off the hook, because I know a lot of support related positions. The people in those positions are subject to a lot of verbal abuse on a regular basis from angry customers. It's a position with a very high turnover rate for that very reason. So I do my best to make sure that I'm not contributing to that problem. But yeah, that's my story of Capital One. It's like my returning story, my horror story with Capital One, and how they just suck when it comes to onboarding returning customers to their services. So I know this video was a little bit unorthodox for me. It's not the usual type of stuff that I do, but since I spent all of that time trying to deal with the Capital One situation, I did not have as much time to dedicate to making my usual type of content. So I hope it was a bit eye-opening to you, or at least interesting. Maybe at some point we can all sort of pressure these companies into actually deleting our information when we close our accounts with them or stop doing business with them. That's like the best takeaway from this that I can think of. So I hope it was an interesting story. Thank you very much for watching as always, and I hope to see you next time.